Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Warming Glow podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Revolution Project, which is a social enterprise where we help companies become environmentally and socially sustainable. First of all, thank you so much for an amazing response on the first episode. We are very grateful for that, and it actually keeps us going. And secondly, apologies for releasing this second episode late because we were a bit busy and we got caught up with some work, and we are releasing this Monday, and that is today. So just like the first episode, यो एपिसोडमा नि तीनटा एस्पेक्ट हुन्छ. First, talking about the topic. Second, say the opinion frame. And finally, sustainability news and events. So without taking any more of the time, let's start with the topic of the day, and that is plastic pollution of the world. So if we live in this planet, almost every one of us are aware of the current plastic pollution, and we all know it's not going in the right direction. But before we go into why is it happening and the current situation, have we ever asked ourselves, plastic कहाँबाट form हुन्छ भनेर? So I was personally aware of this, but then I did more of research on that and came up with something really interesting. So the first plastic was actually invented in order to save wildlife. So के भयो भने around the year 1800s, 1850s तिर चाहिँ billiards भन्ने गेम एकदमै famous भयो. And that game is commonly known as snooker or pool today. So the ball which is used to play the game त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ were made out of ivory of elephants अनि horns of other animals. So a lot of elephants were being slaughtered अनि त्यो ivory लाई use गरेर चाहिँ त्यो गेमको लागि ball बनाइन्थ्यो. And that was definitely not ethical. र यो situation देखेर एउटा New York based firm ले चाहिँ they brought in a fund which encouraged people to bring in alternatives for that problem. र finally in 1869 John Wesley Hyatt भन्ने मान्छेले चाहिँ he invented the first plastic out of natural fibers. र बिस्तारै त्यो ivory को use घट्न थाल्यो, elephants were not slaughtered anymore, and it was replaced by that natural fiber plastic. तर बिस्तारै what happened was more research started coming in, more people were involved into this plastic thing. So त्यो हुन थालिसकेपछि चाहिँ early 1900s ma, in the year 1907 the first fully synthetic plastic was invented. र अझै popularity gain गर्न थाल्यो अनि people started to know about more of its utility, and finally in the year 1935 nylon was invented. That is before World War II. World War मा use हुने parachutes, different ropes, body armors were made out of plastics, so it gained more popularity र production एकदम बढ्दै गयो. So World War II मा America मै plastic production increased by 300%. So it was only going uphill. So the culture it started coming in, more plastics being produced, and finally in the year around 1960s people started recognizing the problem it's causing. So बिस्तारै landfills नि बढ्न थाल्यो. So plastics became cheaper, easier to use and affordable हुन थालेपछि everyone started using it, अनि landfills मा oceans मा you actually started seeing the pollution. त्यो हुन थालेपछि प्लास्टिकले चाहिँ आफ्नो value as a product चाहिँ it started losing that. अनि यसको reputation चाहिँ एकदम घट्यो, but then usage पनि एकदमै बढ्यो. With new technologies coming in, plastic started replacing steels in cars, अनि पहिला packaging, product packaging used to happen through paper or wood, त्यो completely replaced by plastic भयो. And since then it's just been uphill र कहिले तल गएकै छैन. So if the current trend continues, our oceans could contain more plastic than fish by the year 2050. And around the world, 1 million plastic drinking bottles are purchased every minute. So every minute 10 lakh वटा plastic bottles मान्छेहरूले किन्छ, while up to 5 trillion single-use plastic bags are used worldwide every year. And the problem is plastic कहिले पनि biodegrade हुँदैन. So it takes around 500 to 1000 years for it to biodegrade. त्यो बन्छ, but then it just forms into smaller plastic. So microplastic form it always stays in the nature. So every plastic that was ever produced is present in nature today, at least in form of something. Those facts were taken from unenvironment.org. So plastic pollution चाहिँ दुईटा एस्पेक्टमा हेर्न सकिन्छ, on land and on oceans. So according to a recent global survey, the most common type of plastic found in the environment was cigarette butts. So cigarette filters are made out of tiny plastic fibers, अनि the most commonly found सबभन्दा धेरै पाएको फोहोर नै cigaretteको butts थियो. अनि another thing is once the filter gets in contact with the soil को fertility नै घटाइदिन्छ. So that's another sad aspect. And त्यो cigarette butts पछि चाहिँ followed things like drinking bottles, bottle caps, food wrappers, grocery bags, drink lids and straws. And on the oceans, the most commonly found plastic elements were food containers and food packaging, plastic bags and single-use plastics. And अहिले चाहिँ a lot of fishing nets have been found, which entangles the animals, and they're disabled after that. They cannot find food because they're not in their full potential, and eventually they die of starvation. And also they ingest these plastics which are found in the ocean, which is also one of the main reasons for a lot of death of marine life every single year. So what is the situation of Nepal? Trust me, this is devastating. Kathmandu alone uses around 5 million plastic bags every single day. So हामी दिनको 50 लाखवटा plastic bag use गर्छौँ. And on an average we use a plastic bag for about 8 to 10 minutes. This is a global estimate. And for that convenience of 8 to 10 minutes, we're leaving plastics in this planet which will stay for thousands of years to come. And it personally it does not make sense to me, but then I also realize the fact that a lot of us are not aware. And a lot of times we actually need to use plastic for some reason. So it's a pretty complex situation, but then the facts are pretty devastating. And those are just plastic bags. Food packaging ko to research pan chaina, ani one of the main things we see landfills ma are chochoko packets, biscuit ko packets. It's the food packaging. Ani an average Nepali actually does consume a lot of packaged food. So everyday basis ma त्यो food consume गर्दाखेरि plus the amount of single-use plastic we use, imagine the waste we create. And it's going to stay in the environment for thousands of years. So it's pretty devastating. So in Nepal, 16% of urban waste is comprised of plastic, which is 2.7 tons of daily plastic garbage production. And it's just getting worse day by day because there's not a proper guideline or a body that supervises these things, and there's no control that comes in this. But then in 2015, the government did impose a ban on single-use plastics, but then त्यसपछि earthquake भयो, priorities changed, and since then it's just not been addressed. So अहिलेसम्म त्यो materialize हुन पाएको छैन. So if you live in Kathmandu or Nepal, हामीले rivers is a big example when it comes to plastic pollution. So we just have to look around. Rivers are filled with plastics, and eventually these rivers go on to meet at the ocean. And the plastic we use, we throw it, त्यो चाहिँ गएर eventually ocean में mix हुन्छ, which contributes to the total amount of garbage that is filling up with ocean, and it's just affecting a lot. The entire ecosystem is being affected because of that. So what are the negative impacts of the current plastic pollution? The first thing that comes in is the marine life. Millions of sea animals are killed by plastics every year, from birds to fish to any other marine organisms. Around 700 species, including endangered ones, are known to have been affected by this problem. The thing that adds on and makes it worse is the birds which live around these coastal regions have ingested plastic at some point, and it's still inside their body, and that is causing these animals, these birds, to die at a very high rate. And we're also aware of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. This is one of the most talked about topics and issues. So when you think about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, it's one of many patches that are found in the ocean. And when you think about it, it feels like it's an island of floating trash, but it's not. It's actually made up of tiny plastic pieces called microplastics that are less than 5 millimeters long. And this is another big problem which is affecting marine life at a huge level. And it's not just the marine life, it's affecting the entire ecosystem. So the second most negative impact is the microplastics. Today, the microplastic is found in almost every other aspect of the ecosystem. So microplastic is a consequence of producing plastic. So when plastics are produced, it breaks down into smaller pieces, and then microplastics are formed. So microplastics ko sabhanda ठुलो problem चाहिँ के हो भने it's found inside a lot of animals, a lot of sea animals, and now it's found inside humans too. Since we live around a lot of plastic, and again त्यो हाम्रो sea मै pollute भएको भएर हाम्रो त्यो throwaway culture भएको भएर चाहिँ the food we eat has microplastics, the water we drink has microplastics. And definitely one example is sea is filled with microplastics. Fish are found under the sea, अनि उनीहरूले त्यो microplastic ingest गर्छ, and it comes up the food chain to humans. So मान्छेले खाएपछि it's microplastic coming back to us. So it's already coming back to haunt us. So microplastic is another another major aspect in affecting the entire planet. I know I said microplastics a lot of times there, but I did that to give it more attention, so please bear with me. And the third negative impact of plastic pollution is on human health. And त्यो चाहिँ in terms of producing plastic. So plastic produce गर्ने बेलामा दुईटा एकदमै human healthको लागि चाहिँ dangerous chemical use हुन्छ. It's called bisphenol A, BPA भन्छ. अहिले चाहिँ BPA free भनेर आइरहेको हुन्छ हैन कति प्लास्टिकहरु. But there are a lot of plastics where BPA is still used. And there is another chemical called phthalate. So these two elements and chemicals are used to make plastic more durable, flexible and transparent. तर यो चाहिँ human health को लागि एकदम dangerous हुन्छ, especially in the hormonal system area. So it directly hits the hormonal system, especially for babies, considering that a lot of food babies eat today comes with plastic packaging. So food packaging सबै plastic based हुन्छ, and there is a chance that त्यो chemical elements are a part of our food and we ingest it, and the more we do it, it's just going to get worse. So one big problem which is very less talked about and something that needs to be addressed. In a nutshell, plastic pollution is already causing a lot of problems in the entire aspect of the ecosystem. र यही रेटमा कन्टिन्यू भइराख्यो भने चाहिँ this planet will not be a livable place for humans or any other life form. So the question is, can we do something about this? Hope छ कि छैन भन्ने कुरा. So the way I see it is, of course we can do something about it, because if we are the ones who created plastics, we can definitely get rid of it as well. And I'm not just talking again with my own opinion, but then we have seen economies and people changing their lifestyle. And if a lot of people follow this, obviously it's going to change. I know it's not rocket science to understand that. So अहिलेसम्म I talked about the negative impacts of plastic pollution. So यो impact एकदम बढेको भएर चाहिँ individuals, companies and economies have started taking action against it. So for example, in the year 2018, EU Parliament approved single-use plastic ban. So युरोपमा पनि एकदम धेरै plastic use हुन्छ अहिले पनि, but comparatively पहिला एकदम धेरै हुन्थ्यो र ban आइसकेपछि चाहिँ एकदम घटेको छ. And Germany is the third most polluting economy when it comes to plastic. र बिस्तारै त्यो रेट पनि उनीहरुको घटिरहेछ. Canada aims to ban plastic, single-use plastic by the year 2021, and that's a big step. 2021 is like next year, 2020. So 2021 ma Canada will probably not have single-use plastics in its markets. And another thing is 250 groups launched a massive global plastic partnership in the year 2018. This was 2 years ago. Companies like Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Unilever, H&M, they came together and they formed a committee to fight plastic pollution. And the big news that came in the year 2020 is that China is banning non-degradable bags in the major cities by the year 2020. So year नै major cities ma China le non-degradable bags are use गर्न छोड्छ, and in all the cities and towns by the year 2022. So economies are doing great when it comes to tackling these pollution. Some economies le छैन because maybe a lot of other economies are struggling with other things. So plastic pollution might not be a first priority for them, but then the most polluting economies have already started doing something about it, and that's something really massive in the current situation. Then there are also companies and individuals who are doing their bits into making their surroundings plastic free. They're rejecting it, they're not using it, they're using reusable bags. So companies are पनि plastic bag free zone भइरहेछ, communities are भइरहेछ. So good things are happening. It's not just the bad things. नेपालमा चाहिँ के भइरहेछ त? Since Nepal is a developing nation, addressing plastic pollution is definitely not a first priority, because the country is already struggling with economical and political problems. So this situation ma यो problem को बारेमा चाहिँ first मा कहिले नि सोच्दैन. So fortunately, I see this as a big progress, because individuals and companies, they are being a bit responsible about this. So there are individuals who are doing their bits into not using plastics, rejecting it. There are companies that आफ्नो surroundings, आफ्नो environmentलाई चाहिँ plastic bag free बनाएको छ. There are parks, there are natural environments that plastic use गर्न पाउँदैन. So यति यो लेभलको सानो effort पनि it actually matters. So नेपालमा government level बाट चाहिँ a lot has not happened, but individual र organizational level मा चाहिँ slowly, gradually things are happening. So is the situation मा के गर्ने? Do we rely upon the government or do we do something about it? And is the situation where we have to realize the power of individual effort. And the first thing I would like to say into solving this problem, which is not going to solve overnight, it's going to take a really long time, but it requires a lot of consistency. And the first thing I would say is, again, start at your individual and local level. There is a reason for this plastic pollution to happen. Kathmanduमा 50 lakh or a plastic bag every day use हुनुको reason is because we demand for it. So once we stop demanding for things like these, which is not really healthy for our planet, बिस्तारै त्यो levelको consumption र त्यो levelको production पनि घट्छ. So that's basic mechanism that we should always realize. So the more we reject it individual level ma, the lesser it's going to be in the environment. That is where individual effort comes in a lot, which eventually goes on to be a collective effort. So first place में जब प्लास्टिक प्रोड्युस भयो मान्छेहरूले युज गर्न थालेपछि एकजनाको बढी डिमान्ड सुरु भयो नि त. सो त्यसरी नै अरूहरूले फलो गर्दै गयो. सो इफ वी क्यान अल्सो वर्क अन फाइटिङ द्याट सिचुएसन, एकजनाको एफर्टलाई अरूहरूले फलो गर्दै गएर it can definitely work out. It's not going to be easy, but definitely something worth trying. अरू कुराहरू जुन हामीले एभ्रिडे बेसिसमा युज गर्छौँ जस्तै टुथब्रस, इट एन्ड्स अप इन द ल्यान्डफिल्स. एकदमै धेरै टुथब्रसहरू छ ल्यान्डफिलमा अनि इट्स नट रिसाइक्लेबल. सो इफ इट्स फिजिबल फर अस, लेट्स स्विच टु ब्याम्बू. होइन, अनि लेट्स रिजेक्ट प्लास्टिक स्ट्रज एट रेस्टुरेन्ट्स. दिज आर स्मल एफर्ट्स. सो रेस्टुरेन्टले पनि त्यो रियलाइज गर्छ. वान्स यु रिजेक्ट इट, दे स्टार्ट थिङ्किङ, ओके, वाइ डिड द्याट पर्सन रिजेक्ट इट? And they start knowing about the effects it is causing. Second thing what we can do is start segregating our waste. So generally हाम्रो कल्चर चाहिँ के छ भने हामी सबै फोहोर एउटैमा हाल्छौँ अनि एकैचोटि फाल्छौँ होइन. त्यो भयो भने जुन कुरा चाहिँ अपसाइकल र रिसाइकल हुन सक्थ्यो त्यो हुँदैन. So if we start segregating our waste, त्यो भयो भने we can upcycle different things. So अहिले we're working on a green school project at the Revolution project. अनि त्यहाँ चाहिँ हामीले टेरेस फार्मिङ गर्न लाग्छौँ. त्यसको लागि चाहिँ we need to germinate the seeds. So the seedको germinationको लागि चाहिँ we're using different milk packets and oil packets which would go to land waste. त्यो चाहिँ हामीले लिएर we're using it as much as possible. We're germinating the seeds there and we're going to make the most out of it before it ends up at the landfills. So that's one way we're tackling it, and something which you can do as well. So these small things collectively actually matter a lot, and segregating your waste actually helps you get there. So the final thing you can do is start working on this in your organization or your school. So after सके जति एउटा लेभलको इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनमा चाहिँ let's work on it and let's create a culture for people around us. And the most important aspect again is talking about it. Like I said in the first episode, it's a very small world now because of the internet. So let's promote companies who are tackling it, who have pledged to end their consumption and production of plastic within certain years. So let's promote them, let's make a conversation. And it's not an issue for the government in Nepal is because we don't have these conversations. So once the public starts talking about this, then the government responds. So it's not like we have to be like out on the streets every single time, no, but then our daily conversation, let's make it a part of it. With that, we come to the end of the first aspect of the podcast. We still have to cover 2 more aspects and we'll be very quick about it. This podcast is supposed to be for 10 minutes, but then we're not being able to squeeze all the information for 10 minutes because we want to give out more information, which is enough. So, yeah, like the last episode, this is not going to be squeezed in for 10 minutes. It's going to be a bit longer. So please bear with us with that as well. So moving on to the opinion frame, Adjati will be only giving in one opinion. So let's hear about it. This is from Mr. Sagar Satyal.
Hi, my name is Sagar Satyal, and I personally believe that each individual should be aware of the kind of impact that we're having on the planet. And this is saying our small ways could prove to be significant collectively. This is saying a few things that I do would be one, आफूले केही सामान युज गरेको छ भने त्यसको ऱ्यापर्सहरूलाई चाहिँ वा प्लास्टिकहरूलाई चाहिँ सकेसम्म बाटोमा नफाल्ने, आफ्नो पकेटमा हालेर हुन्छ वा प्रपरली चाहिँ त्यसलाई बिनमा हाल्ने वुड बी वान. अर्को चाहिँ घरमा कलेक्ट भएको फोहोरहरूलाई चाहिँ सकेसम्म त्यो डिस्पोज गर्न गाह्रो भइरहेको हुन्छ. सो एउटा ठुलो त्यो फाल्ने कन्टेनर राखेको छु. सो त्यसको लागि चाहिँ एभ्री टाइम नयाँ प्लास्टिकहरू किनिरहनु परेन टु डिस्पोज. सो फोहोर लिने दाइ जब आउनुहुन्छ मैले गएर चाहिँ उहाँको गाडामा चाहिँ पोर गरेर आई क्यान युज द सेम bin multiple times. So that is one small way in which I'm trying to reduce my plastic usage.
That was Mr. Satyal. Thank you so much for sharing in your opinion and your effort towards the environment. Isarine, if everyone's gonna work in a similar pattern, then definitely change should not be that far away. All we have to do is be consistent. We finally come to the last part of today's episode, and that is sustainability events and progress. नेपालको एस्पेक्टमा चाहिँ अनि रिलेटिङ टु द टपिक अफ द डे अघि भने जस्तै एभरेस्ट रिजनमा चाहिँ प्लास्टिक ब्यान भएको छ, बट देन द प्रब्लम इज कसैले युज गरिहाल्यो भने वाट्स द पेनल्टी भनेर चाहिँ फिक्स भएको छैन. सो अन्टिल एन्ड अनलेस द्याट ह्यापन्स त्यो मटेरियलाइज हुन त्यो पनि गाह्रो छ, बट होपफुली द्याट ह्यापन्स. अर्को कुरा चाहिँ एक्सेप्ट फर नेपाल, recently हाम्रो neighboring country India has partnered with Norway in order to fight these plastic issues and also climate change ko issue, and that's another thing that's happening. If you want to know more about it, go through the internet and you'll find a lot of different efforts, or small as well as larger companies. So your episode might say that's all I will be able to include. Also, I came across 3 different events happening at Kathmandu this week, which is not related to the topic of the day, but it's related to social progress in arts. So first event you can be a part of is training on WASH, water sanitation and hygiene, which is being organized by Global Peace Foundation on February 27th and 28th. WASH is something that we need to know like individual basis as well, because water, sanitation and hygiene, that should answer it. The second thing you can be a part of is parenting seminar, a skill everyone requires even if we're a parent or not. It's happening on 29th February. It's being organized by Gyan Shakti Nepal and it's happening at the British School. And finally, an artsy event. It's called Conversation with a Dead Poet, a poetry writing workshop inspired by Leonard Cohen on 29th February, happening at House of Palettes. We at the Revolution Project also believe that art has the power to change the world. So it's everything's correlated. We believe that. So these are the events you can be a part of this week. With that, we have finally come to an end of this second episode of the Warming Globe podcast. If you have made it this far, thank you so much. We know we said it'll be a 10-minute long podcast on the first episode, and this one was more than 20 minutes. I'm not finding the right words to explain this situation, but we will try to make it shorter from the next episode. Thank you so much for understanding. We can always take the conversation forward through the comment section below, or you can write to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you like this content and if you're listening to us through YouTube, please subscribe to our channel, and to know more about us, please visit our website at www.revolutionproject.com.np. Summer is on the way. Please stay hydrated, carry a mask, eat healthy, take care of people around you, but first make sure you take care of yourself and spread good vibes. This is Ayush, your host, signing off. See you this Friday, hopefully.